Hello there, people of YouTube. This is Joltster109, and I am bringing you another episode. I'm bringing you Awoken Part 3. I'm not excited. Okay. I actually have snacks with me this time, not actual pastry dishes. Because people were saying, like, why do you eat cake all the time? We're watching Grimdark. So I'm like, yeah, I suck at timing that. But hey, it's cake. Today I have some pistachios. These are delicious. My God, why did I not try these sooner? Anyways. And I'm also having a rotisserie scootaloo. It's a really dark joke after what just happened last time. 3, 2, 1, go. I'm sorry.
Ponytails.
Right. I thought I was missing
Red
something on
by Scribbler.
that. Scribbler, why you do this? Yep. I know. Oh goddamn, not again. Again with the build-up for no reason.
When I awoke, I was sprawled out on the bathroom floor. I felt groggy. The question that buzzed around inside my head was, what had happened to me? Shakily,
You went
I got
absolutely
to my
bonkers.
hooves. It was then that I noticed the shattered glass littering the floor like snowflakes. With a start, I partially recalled the events of last night. I had shattered that mirror, and I don't remember why. But I'd been angry at something. Shaking once to clear my head, I went over to the sink and splashed my face. Briefly, I took note of the blood splatters across the chrome. It looked like fireworks. Feeling better every moment, I walked out of the washroom and into my bedroom. Once there, I reached into a drawer and pulled up my bodysuit. After I had put it on, I made my way to the metal countertop where my StatCon was charging. Taking it off the charger, I clipped it around my ankle. With a small beeping noise, it came to life. I was set and ready to start my day. Leaving my room, I entered an elevator. After the doors closed and I pushed the basement button, I leaned back on the railing and waited out the trip. As the elevator began to drop, I felt sudden concern.
Wait a minute.
A moment from last night flashed behind my eyelids. Me, gazing at my own rage-filled reflection in the mirror, and then smashing it. Concern turned to insecurity. Recently, I've been having a harder and harder time coping with, well, myself. My strange nightly activities had started quite suddenly 3 weeks prior, the night after I talked to the new flock of Spectra donors. Things had only gotten worse from then. Last night was the first time I had actually caused physical damage, though. What was happening to me?
What?
Huh? Oh, right. My frantic pondering was cut short as the elevator grinded to a stop and beeped. It was notifying me that I had reached rock bottom. Shaking my head, I cracked my back and puffed my chest out. The time to feel was over. I was the ominous orchestrator now. Straightening up, I marched out of the small space and into the long, narrow hall. To my left and right, hot pipes hissed and groaned, threatening to burn any pony idiotic enough to get close. In front of me, the domed roof of the Rainbow Factory vaulted against the sky, and there, planted smack dab in the middle, the Pegasus device greeted my eyes. It vibrated and whistled, pumping out a fresh load of spectra. As I entered the chamber, I got two predominant reactions from those whom I crossed paths: a salute from the factory workers, or a whimper from the factory captives. I flew to the upper gangplank, landing gracefully by the grinder at the top of the Goliath machine. The last remnants of its recent victim were still being churned up. Bright green. The shade was like seeing a tree from above. Don't think about being in the open air. Remember how lucky you are to even be alive right now. Without even batting an eyelid, I walked around the Pegasus device and out along a protruding spoke to a framed hole in the wall. Entering the gap, I continued onwards until I arrived at a metal door. The door slid open and I came out onto a long hallway. One way, the direction in which I should be heading, led to a small conference room where Dash and the rest of the orchestrators were beginning their meeting. The other led to the balcony. If paradise could be created, it would have formed that broad ledge, positioned strategically so that any pony who stood on it could always see the land and the sky at once. I adored that smooth piece of cloud. Seeing the natural light at the end of the hallway momentarily made me stop and stare. I decided conclusively that I would visit it after the meeting was over. I may not fly in the open skyways anymore, but I could still admire them. And imagine. And wish. No! Ripping my gaze away, I turned and made my way towards the conference room. On arrival, I pressed a button. The door connected to the terminal silently slid open.
So, you chose to come in the end. Good.
Dash smiled.
We were just about to start the presentation. Please, sit down.
I nodded and hurried to my designated spot around the horseshoe-shaped table, marked out by a tinted name tag. When I settled in, Dash nodded and began to speak.
Now that we're all here, I'd like to start. For those of you who didn't know, today marks 3 months since the uprising.
A few murmurs broke out. We rarely spoke of what had happened.
Yes, the one where Scootaloo
Her voice cracked saying that name.
rallied the rest of the degenerate flight school failures and fought back against our authority in an effort to upset the balance of the Rainbow Factory.
She moved over to the wall and clicked a button. The large screen at the head of the table flickered to life.
I spent a long time trying to figure out something that was bothering me. I brought the video feed from our floor's cameras that day. I'd like you all to watch it. Let's see if you can figure out where we went wrong.
The lights dimmed and my attention was drawn to the screen. As the footage began to roll, I felt the twang of something deep down in my heart. As the events of that day unfolded again in front of me, I began to shiver. What was going on? My stomach clenched, and I felt as though I was about to throw up. Unbidden, I recalled something a pony, I guess you might call him a friend, had told me once. He had been one of only 2 friends I ever had in those earlier stages working in the Rainbow Factory. They had both died long before the uprising. One had been the purple filly with the birthmark. The colt was a pony of few words, so when he spoke, it was because he was telling you something very important. He had talked to me the day after I'd murdered that filly, mere hours before the guards came to fetch me out of the cells forever. What do you want, Glitz?
Sitting here all by your lonesome. Thought you might need some pony to talk to.
Yeah, well, I don't. I'm fine.
You're not fine.
I am so.
You killed someone yesterday. Barely slept a wink last night. And you're more jittery than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. You're not fine.
Get lost or I'll smash your face in.
He had recoiled a little at that, unsure whether I meant it.
You know, in the end, things catch up with you. With every pony. All the crimes any pony has ever committed over their lifetime eventually comes back to bite them in the tail. That is, unless they make amends.
When I didn't uncoil from my rocking ball, he settled back down.
Make amends? Are you kidding?
No, but I...
How in Tartarus' name am I supposed to make amends for what happened? It was her or me, Glitz. Or both of us. Would you prefer that I was dead now as well?
No, but I...
Then shut up because you don't know what you're talking about. You weren't there. You don't know what happened.
I was there. I was bringing back empty Spectra vats with Cumulus. I saw you. I heard the Overmare give you an order, and you followed it. You didn't stop pressing that taser button until Purplebit's brains were all over the floor. When you came back and didn't mention it, I got worried about you.
Get lost. I'm fine. She deserved it. It was her or me.
He had stared at me by then, clearly disappointed.
You've changed. You weren't like this in flight school.
Have you caught the memo yet? Everything's changed. We all have. This place changes ponies.
Yeah.
He had gotten up and then walked slowly away from me.
I guess it does. If they let it.
At the time, I had only raged at him. Now, however, 3.5 years later, I finally registered his words. Was that what was happening to me? Life at the Rainbow Factory has certainly changed me, but were the past atrocities beginning to come back to ruin me? I wished dearly that that was not the case.
Karma.
Like I need to add being haunted by ghosts in the list of reasons why this place sucks.
I shook my head before returning my attention back to the screen. I concluded that the next time I start acting weird, I'd catch myself and counter my behavior. As the screen died, Rainbow Dash faced us all.
You've all seen the footage now, so tell me, what was our downfall?
Poker Eyes, a burly orchestrator with a crooked grin, raised his hoof. The Overmare turned her attention to him.
The guards were our downfall, man. The revolt was something we were not prepared for. I think the problem behind it all was a simple lack of training.
He paused momentarily.
That makes sense.
And again, nowadays, and only because of the revolt, we've incorporated new elements into our routine. We shouldn't have to deal with that problem again.
Wrong and wrong.
Rainbow Dash emphasized her distaste by pointing one of her covered hooves at the speaker.
We've just been lucky that it hasn't reoccurred. I can bet you that no matter how well our soldiers are trained, they will not be ready to contain a problem of that scale effectively.
For a moment, she stopped talking, choosing instead to look around at the 13 orchestrators in silence.
Any other brilliant theories?
Flaxen, a yellow mare with a tattered blue mane, lifted her hoof. She was sitting right beside me.
They flew, ma'am.
I looked over in amusement at the stupid pony. What a foolish response. I waited for Dash to ridicule her. She didn't, and instead gave Flaxen the time she needed to explain.
They flew above us. This gave them the opportunity to occupy the upper ground. We assumed they'd stay put on the floor and missed the obvious, that they would fly. What's more, being smaller than the guards, they were faster, not to mention more desperate.
We've had flunkouts try to fly before, and we've always stopped them successfully.
But not as a group. They always tried to escape in ones and twos, so we're easier to put down. This lot got organized remarkably quickly, so when they took to the air, we weren't ready for them.
Exactly!
Rainbow started smiling again, her eyes glittering in anticipation.
And on that note, let me introduce you to my newest idea.
A stifling pause.
Fillies and gentle colts, we're going to de-wing them.
In the wake of her proposal, a wave the size of the Pegasus device smashed into me. My world swam, and I was swept under. Was Dash serious? De-winging was by far the most demoralizing and humiliating thing one Pegasus could do to another. It was the one thing that always remained taboo. From the most sadistic killer
Really?
the factory had to offer, to the most idiotic fool ever to push a broom, no pony took another's wings. We bound them, sure, and I'd seen my share of other cruelties, but this? De-winging went far beyond those things. Even I didn't think I could do something like that. It would be like turning someone into a mud pony or hornhead before they died.
Couldn't we just bind their wings on arrival?
No! Didn't you hear, Flaxen? They were organized. What's to say that even with their wings bound, they wouldn't try that again? What's to say there isn't another Scootaloo out there waiting to be a spanner in our machine? You!
Dash looked at me.
I'm giving you the honor of orchestrating this new operation. On arrival, flunkouts will be bound, and in short order, their wings will be taken. Let them know this will happen, every pony. Demoralize them. Crush any thought of escape before it has time to grow.
Her words jolted me out of my thoughts and into a reality even worse that I could have created with my mind.
Me?
I sounded like an idiot.
You want me to orchestrate the de-winging?
No, the pony behind you.
She spoke so sarcastically that my cheeks burned. I was the last on the far end of the horseshoe. Behind me was only the door.
Well,
I started to speak but stopped. I was more than apprehensive.
Well?
Her wings flared in annoyance.
Uh-oh.
Do you mean to say that you have no desire to run the program? Or are you telling me you can't cope with that level of responsibility?
I caught myself.
of course I'll do it, Overmare. I was just wondering where I'd be located, that's all.
Her wings fell to rest idly again. I sighed in relief.
As I suspected. I've known since I thought of this idea that you'd be the colt for the job.
Why?
I think you'll do excellent.
Why?
You start next week when the new shipment arrives.
Thank you.
I'll meet with you privately to figure out details, soldier. For now, meeting dismissed, every pony.
I nodded and got up. I knew that I'd start screaming in hysteria or something if I stayed in the room for much longer. Pegasi always died with their wings on. Even those fed into the machine kept their wings. Whenever I fought some pony in the cells, I never took their wings. Bent them and broke them, maybe, but I never stooped as low as to take them off.
I have some things to tend to. Gentle colts, fillies.
I nodded at the other orchestrators.
I'll see you on the floor.
As soon as the door slid closed behind me, I stumbled. My breathing was choppy and my heart twitched sickeningly. Willing myself to walk on, I stumbled down the hall and out onto the balcony. When I arrived, I collapsed against the balustrade, exhausted and with only a half notion of getting back up. Lying with one hoof dangling over the edge, I looked down at the world. We were drifting over Ponyville. Far below, like colorful ants, ponies milled about, bartering, interacting, playing in the fields, all oblivious to the fact that Equestria's largest slaughterhouse was floating right above their heads. I felt the twang of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Sadness.
I'm one of the lucky ones.
I tried desperately to remember my life before the Rainbow Factory, but came up largely blank. I recalled a few details, but they were like splashes of color on a blank canvas. Something about roses, sitting at a potter's wheel, a girl I kissed once, a friend I had once. All fragments of a life now so thoroughly lost to me that my brain had let go of it rather than hold on and grieve. I realized with a start that I'd forgotten what it felt like to live in a normal society. I began to cry, deep, heaving convulsions that threatened to rip my lungs out and tear my heart in half. I choked on long repressed tears, set free now by the crossing of boundaries not even I had known I would care about crossing.
I tased a filly to death when I was the same age as her. I kicked a colt's head in just last month. I cleaned up the discarded body parts of my classmates. Why is this bothering me so much?
For minutes, maybe hours, I sobbed until I had no tears left to shed. Only when I had drained myself dry did I take a deep breath and, using the railing as a crutch, got up. Hoof steps behind me signaled me to turn. Dash arrived out from the hall. Paying little heed to me, the mare walked right up to the railing and gazed at the horizon. A moment of unease went by. Had she heard me being so soft and weak?
Life is a simple game. We've become the game masters. We've set up a world inside of the bigger one and controlled every single thing that goes on. We became gods.
She stopped and looked at me.
Don't.
I'm a god. And those worthless souls down there and up here are pawns I can move around.
She smiled and turned away from me again.
My friend Twilight tried to teach me how to play chess once. I had to pretend I had no interest in such a complicated game. She has no idea how complicated the real game is. Or that I keep winning it again and again.
I wasn't used to such a conversation with her. I just nodded, wondering whether I had fallen asleep after exhausting myself with crying.
We played them well. They live their lives oblivious to what goes on up here. They think me a simpleton who only sleeps, eats, and cares about flying really fast. They don't have any idea about what I really do, what I'm really like beneath my mask. We've done well fooling them all. No pony down there knows the truth about the Rainbow Factory.
I nodded in empty agreement.
We've done a good job.
It seemed like the right thing to say.
You've done a good job, soldier. Look at how you are now and then compare yourself to how you used to be. A simple mortal, living life controlled by fear and instinct, living in the shadow of those that were above you. I've seen you rise up the ranks in the factory. I remember clearly the first day you arrived here. Do you?
Yes. It was 3.5 years ago.
Your memory's pretty good. Now, think of this.
Dash turned to stare at me for a final time. Her eyes became cruel.
It took you 3.5 years to make it here, but it will only take a second to knock you back down.
I began to bite my tongue.
I'm watching you, soldier. You performed the trials and earned your place here in the upper ring of power. However, that does not mean you slipped under the radar.
My tooth punctured my tongue and I swallowed blood.
Don't disappoint me. I have had enough ponies I care about and trust ultimately disappointing me. Are we clear?
I nodded and began to back away, slowly making it to the door. Her gaze followed my every move.
Damn. 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 This just got interesting. I thought that the actual sequences in parts 1 and 2 was like way in the future after the fact that he retired, but no, that was just him before this, just having nightmares of what happened before.
That was Awoken Part 3. It was written by Synergy,
Jesus.
with additional material written by Scribbler, and featured the voice acting talents of Finish Line, Reuben Chan, Crown Prince, Narrator Pony, LJ Shaw, Astro Brony, Black Iris Balloon, Thornquill, Len Ray, Solar Pony, Reva Brony, and Quill and Lead. Thank you
And
very much for listening.
mute. Okay. I'll be right back. Welcome back. And I don't know what was happening outside. I'm sorry if you guys heard any background noise. Anyways, nothing I can do about that. I have no soundproofing in here. It sucks. Anyways, Scribbler's voice was shot. What the heck? Anyways, I'm still eating cashews. These things are freaking delicious. As I said, I thought that the guy, our unnamed protagonist, was like way in the future and retired from all this and he was just having nightmares about it. But no. He is living in the present, just having nightmares about what happened a few years ago when he first started working there. And he just now got ranked up. And now it's like it's starting to mess with his head. Now Rainbow's putting a lot of pressure on him. This was an interesting part because I don't know, it kind of like it put some how do I say? It put some background? That's not the right term. Some history. You learn a little bit more about Rainbow. At least this version of Rainbow. How in Ponyville, that's a mask that she wears. This is the real her. And she, I don't know, man, she's like one of those, I don't know the right words to say here, because it's very, I'm gonna start eating these, because it's actually starting to annoy me. It's, how should I say? I don't know, man, it's just words, I can't use them. Anyways, that's not my point. I'm saying it put some history on Rainbow, and now our main guy is being put under a lot of pressure because of the new assignment given to him because of his new rank. Removing wings. That is dark as shit. That's like saying cutting off a horn off a unicorn. I don't know, man. This story has ways to just kind of like make you go WTF. Oh, man. Anyways, I think that's all I got to say. Stay tuned for part 4 of Awoken. Should be up on Monday next week. So, that being said, stay tuned and goodbye.